right now, most of the positions I'm recruiting for are about business transformation. Because business transformation is not just an easy, let's have a meeting, drink a... You are changing the business model. As a leader, you have to be able to lead solidly while taking care of those and keeping this alignment. It's not about leading with the brain anymore. It's leading with the brain and the heart. And that's the success formula.
Having spent 25 years in executive search business, that's a long time. And today I would like to, learn more about your story, your lessons, but also talk about the future, because the future is here and we are all kind of worried about the future, but also we want to prepare for it. So I'm very excited about this conversation. So tell me, the first question is, 25 years in business is a long time. Running your own business for more than 25 years is an achievement. What is your holy grail of success in business?
Okay. Well, first you make it sound very long. It's not that long. It's only 25 years. Well, I have been extremely lucky on my journey. To be very honest with you. Very often when I contemplate where I come from, where I have been, to where I'm today, I'm actually very grateful. So there's, to say that there was a career path design, that would be unfair because a lot of things happen by coincidence. I think what I'm grateful for is that on my journey I met a lot of very good, inspiring and helpful people on my journey. And this is the results of where I am today. I do believe in hard work. I guess this is part of my DNA. But I'm also very privileged to have a profession that I'm crazy about. I just love people. So when I have my down moments where, like everybody else, am I in the right place? Could I be doing something else? After reflection, I always come back to the same place, because it's this access to people, is this ability to contribute in whatever small way you can. And let's face it, I work with the executives, so I get, the best part of the pie.
I know that you were born in Mauritius. You got education in China. You lived in different countries. How did your roots, your education, the culture you raised and your family impact the way you do business? Has it impacted your business?
I think so. We still joke at home that I'm still colorblind. I come from a mixed family where it was common around, family get together to have already mixed races, Indians, French, and you take it for granted. And Mauritius has magically proven that races can live together. So it requires a lot of compassion, it requires a lot of understanding, it requires a lot of tolerance, but I think we've somehow get the biggest part of the puzzle in the right place. And moving to China to study, obviously I stood out. But again, my first degree, I'm a sinologist by background, so spoke the language, understood the culture. And I remember when, after 10 years in China, we were moving here, my surroundings were asking me, oh my God, you're moving to Poland. Are you not, concerned that this is not a cosmopolitan place? And I'm like, hey guys, I've been in China for 10 years. I'm not exactly... And I was in Beijing and Shanghai. And the time I was in Beijing, I arrived in Beijing in 1989. So those dates are very different of what you know of China today anyway. I think it's Arriving in Poland, for example, my driving license was not valid because I was coming from China, so I was taking public transport. And I'm always curious, I think. I wanted to be independent, It's when the weather is not so good, I like to be driven, but when the weather is great, I like to take the public transport. And I remember my very protective mother-in-law saying, why don't you get the driver to drop you or take a taxi? And me taking the tram, and she was asking me, calling me, asking how was the day, and I was telling her that the most interesting encounters, I was, taking a tram from one place to the other. There were usually older ladies on the tram and asking me, oh, where are you from? And I think what somehow worked for me, when you smile at people, they always smile back at you. Yeah. And it's, the approach to life. I mean, I still travel quite a lot. The reason I say I'm colorblind, because from time to time I just forget I'm different. And, somebody is staring at me, I'll look at them and smile. And very often they melt. They just smile back at you and start the conversation. Sorry, I was staring, right? Where are you from? What are you doing? And I think it's what served me working in all these foreign countries is to go in with already a positive attitude, I think. It's a smile is the best weapon anyway. Yeah. And everywhere around the world you will have always some unpleasant comments every now and then, but just I think where you focus, this is where the energy flows. Yeah. You focus on the good things, and somehow this is your reality.
Has been different in many spheres. Helped you, been an advantage or disadvantage?
It has been a great advantage for me. For example, on the business development side, when I started, obviously. When I arrived in Poland, it was 1999, and I was going for business development meetings. And I knew as a fact that they might not remember my name, but they would definitely remember me, because it's not every day that they would meet a woman in Mauritius, in Warsaw, right? Yeah. So it worked in my advantage, and I've always used it to my advantage. And it has worked very well for me, because at the end of the day, what everybody's looking for is if you can contribute in any way, in all the exchanges you have, it's a win-win for both parties. And again, I think this fact that you don't go in thinking, oh, I'm different, or is that going to be a problem for me? I don't even think about it. Right. I go in like anyone else would go into a meeting, and it's business as usual for me. So it's, of course, then people are curious. I am also very curious. One of the biggest challenge I have here is always I'm reminded, please, you cannot ask these kind of questions. These questions are inappropriate. But what?
Is it cultural? To stop yourself from asking this kind of questions. Is it cultural, like here in Poland you experienced that, or?
No, I was, for my previous company, the training was coming from the US, and there was a long list of things that you're not allowed to ask. But at the end of the day, I know that you're an executive, probably a very important one, but what I'm interested is the person behind it.
Yeah.
For me, that's the way I'm going to remember that person. Not that this person carried, an important title. From time to time, I ask about hobbies, for example, because this tells you more about a person than, the technical questions that you have. My team always asks me that really, usually towards the end of meetings, or even in the meeting, they hear laughter and they wonder, what could I be laughing? Because I was meeting with a chief risk officer. What was funny? I said, because the way I look at a person, it's a whole. Okay, yes, it's important. We're looking for competencies, but we are also looking at capabilities. To understand capabilities, you have to see the person as a whole. What drives this person? What are they passionate about? almost what are their dreams, because at the end of the day, you are hired by the client, you are an extension of the client to find a solution for their business. So you have to know more than the CV part of the individual. So I still, the advantage is because I'm from a different culture, I can always say, well, that's cultural differences. But I haven't found it. I do also believe that I go in with full disclosure also. I have no problem talking about myself, my hobbies, what brought me here. I talk about, my husband, my family, my kids. So I think when you go in with full disclosure, people are more willing to share. It's again, it's what you give out, you will get back. We say that everything that goes around comes back again.
I remember our conversation. Your first question was, what is your story? And I was so shocked because this is usually a question I ask. So I love it. It opens the conversation in any area you can imagine. It's more about a person. Who are you?
I was very surprised because that used to be my question, which very often people were very surprised. A couple of times people throw it back at me and they said, so what's your story? So, then I kind of told them my story. And then they were like it's about this disclosure thing. Then they would say, okay, my story is, and then they would just talk through it. And it's also easier to connect once it's, not just me being very self-important, I'm here to assess you type of relationship, right?
It's not an investigation or a questionnaire. You can find everything online, but it's more about...
And this is what is interesting in life. Everybody has a different story. And getting that story can actually inspire you and other people around.
Are your candidates, people you talk to, ready to tell their story? What are the questions they are not expecting or they are not ready to answer?
Well, some are not ready to, they come in expecting that it will be just a technical review of their competencies. Some sadly are not ready to talk about the story and they're a bit confused. Okay, where do I start? Some are not are uncomfortable talking about their dreams. And they always smile and they say, how is it relevant to what we're looking for? And usually I have to again do a bit of explanation that I'm interested in the human being behind the title. And it tells me also a lot of how self-aware these people are. Because one of the biggest, I would say, issues the executives today have is a very, I'm talking generally now, a low level of self-awareness, deep self-awareness. And that for me very often is shocking, is harsh to say, but I'm very surprised usually, to know what really drives you. If you would not have the job you have today, what would you be doing? Some have no idea. And this is what I see is the part that if people would be more aware, it would serve them better. For example, now organizations are all downsizing, right-sizing, optimization, which creates a situation where you have a lot of people being, I call them the casualties of restructuring. They end up on the job market and start to look for another job. And very often, many of them cannot reinvent themselves. They just have to find a copy-paste job, which is not always that obvious. Or they have identified their identity, their personal identity with the job they were carrying, forgetting that being a CXO at company X was a privilege. When you carry that title, everybody picks up your phone, everybody answers your phone. Without that title, very often you're just ignored. And that can be very damaging to an individual that did not realize it before. And this is also, I think, where I've managed to have a very healthy network, because I share this with individuals. I say, okay, I know that you have this very important work. And for me, every meeting is an exchange. I go in to give and to take, obviously, but I go in to give also. So if somebody is like unable to share or answer a question, I kind of explain them, you might want to think about it. So very often I get messages, thanks Corinne, you led me to think about it. Can we grab another coffee outside this assignment you're working? So it has, I would say, it has helped me build my business. Yeah. Very often my colleagues, my younger colleagues coming in, we have this mentoring program in the group. They are asking me the same question you've just asked, what helped you today? When I was starting, obviously I wanted to be successful like every person, yes. But I think what helped me most is that I really loved what I was doing. And I can see there are parts of the work that I don't really like to do. And I don't do it very well. Yeah. It's, I hate presentation, I hate PowerPoint presentations. Because I can't connect really with people. But I enjoy meeting one-on-one. I enjoy building the relationship. What gives me good gratification if somebody calls and say, thanks for the advice you gave me the other day, or thanks for the question. You just, it bothered me, that question. But then, it helped me somehow. So that's what feeds me.
I hear you. What you're telling me now is a lot about, now it's not only the businesses are disrupting, we are disrupting ourselves too, and it requires a deepen dive into our identity, our values, our minds, who we are. So I wonder, in the world we're living, there's so much change. And the organizations are changing, there are new business models, there's exponential growth, there are new technologies. What I hear a lot is this VUCA world, so much uncertainty, so much complexity. Is there a new model for a leader of such organization in such worlds? Who are you usually looking for? Organizations that are going through disruption?
It's this is a question that we should all be asking ourselves, actually. How are we preparing ourselves? Are we ready as individuals, as leaders, as organization? And at the stress level is increasing because shareholders, stakeholders want more and more.
Yeah.
I don't have, I would say, the secret recipe or the ready-made answer, but my humble opinion is we as leaders would make better leaders, better contribution if we took care of ourselves first. For me, it's like this image of the plane is going down, you have to put oxygen on yourself first before you put it on your kid. And that applies to leaders, because I think the role of the leader is changing. We are going into a role where leaders need to be enablers, they have to be nurturers, they have to, they actually have to take care of people at a different level. So to be able to do that, they have to be in good condition, not only at the physical level, not only at the emotional level. I honestly think also at the spiritual level. Because how do you impact, how do you influence if you yourself are not in a good place? I always also refer to how can you be in a relationship with someone if you are not good with yourself? Yes. For me, on this journey, what I have personally learned is, before expecting that the others love you, you have to love yourself first. It's easier said than done, obviously, yes. But I think we would make better leaders if we were connected with ourselves, if we had really a high level of awareness if we were able to understand that it is our brain that drives our emotion and not the other way around, that we would leave enough space and time for us to work on our own self-development and understand that this is not just a one-off a year, that it's a continuous journey. If we would leave enough time for self-reflection, we have to nurture ourselves as leaders to be able to influence and to create an impact. So if you're kind of broken, destabilized, a bit depressed, tired, you're not going to help anyone.
Right.
Because you're not credible. And so if there is one thing I would, I would advise the leaders of today is, keep running, yes, but make sure you take care of yourself, because business is no longer a sprint. It is a marathon that we're running at a much faster pace. Because I've usually at the end of the year, I compare the number, when I prepare to send my wishes, I prepare a list of executives that I've worked with. And the number of executives that no longer on the list is sadly increasingly high. You've heard somebody died of a heart attack. You've heard somebody, that passed away. And these are very young people like myself. Yeah. But there was, they were passionate beings about what they were doing, forgetting the most important element, the I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at your list of candidates you've worked with globally, do you remember a person that you've seen that transformation, from a sprint leader, very efficient, hardworking, into a person that transformed? Can you give some examples of such people?
There are a few that actually I meet on a regular basis. I call them the ex-CEOs of my generation that have decided to do other things. Very often they are either investing their own money or sitting on other businesses' supervisory board. This population, they inspire me because they've managed to reinvent themselves and still bring value. Yeah. Success without fulfillment is total failure. So for me, these people inspire me because they've been able to reinvent themselves out of a corporate world, still in business in different formats, and still being able to create an impact, And when you meet them, you want to listen. Actually, very often I joke that I need to take notes at some of the let's catch up for coffee meeting. And I think why these people stand out is, and I still learn from these individuals, some are ex-clients, some are ex-candidates, their ability to reflect on themselves. There is no reinvention if you don't know where you are. What are your strengths? What drives you? What are your value set? Yeah. What's your purpose? It's not only business that had mission, vision, and they are able to talk about theirs and they review it on an ongoing, basis. When I meet these people, I ask them, who's the latest coach you've worked with? What's the latest book you've read? And there's still this fountain of inspiration.
Right.
And I can say that these are very happy people. The journey was not easy because, when you're sitting as a CXO and you have all these privileges and you decide, okay, that's it. Some did the transition when they were still very young, meaning in their mid-50s, into, okay, I have the financial security, so there's not also this rush. But I've also met a couple of people who don't have the financial security, but just decided to change their lifestyle altogether. Right. They move to the countryside and decrease. They don't go to all the fancy balls anymore. They don't drive the fancy cars. But when I meet these individuals, they are really happy, and you can feel it. You can almost almost touchable, yes. Because they are almost following their dreams, what they really wanted, yes. Some have family values. They want to see the grandchildren grow. Some wanted to travel the world. And there's a myth, you have to be rich to see the world. That's not true. I have even a couple of personal friends of mine who just went backpacking.
Right.
At the ripe age of 50.
Oh,
and the way they were traveling the world is they travel, they teach a bit of English, and then they go to the next, and it's
there's no limits.
There's
It's
no
just
limits.
it's our internal understanding, of what we can do.
Yes.
But when I I hear a lot about people who left the corporate worlds. They reinvented themselves into a different role. Some started the startups, then some started a charity organization. So my question is, can we be ourselves in the corporate world? Can we feel fulfilled, be driven by the purpose, by the higher purpose, not just the money? In the corporate world, or the corporate world has to change?
Well, different people have different needs, and different value sets. So I would not vilify the corporate world because, I grew out of one. So I would say what is important is, well, I think there is a big effort on the corporation side to actually redefine how they attract, retain the new, the younger generation. There is a lot of effort being put on the table when you talk about strategy and how do they change the model of the business. You don't only have the flexi hours, you have remote work, you have a lot of bits and pieces that is being put in place to address this. I honestly believe you can be happy anywhere you are in the world, in corpo, in running your own business. It's a personal decision at the end of the day. Too often, and here I'm going to be kind of a cynic, too often we expect somebody else to drive our happiness. We expect corporation, now we come up with Chief Happiness Officer.
We do.
Chief Engagement Officer. The truth is, if I, as a member of the team, is not happy, no one will make me happy. Because this is a personal decision. I wake up in the morning and I decide, my brain decide where we are going to focus, and that drives the emotion. Yeah. So I think it takes a lot of work on oneself first, and not expecting, the whole world will make us happy. That's a bit of the disease of today, I would say. Actually, what we're talking about is the disease of the future. The number one danger is isolation, where you have a growing population of older people that might not have family members or relatives. Right. But the truth is, we suffer already today. I know people who suffer from isolation being part of larger groups because they have not been able to connect. Yeah. They haven't been able to be part of a community, a group of friends. Whose responsibility is that?
Yeah, and it's shocking because that's the disease of high developed countries. In low developed countries in Latin America, you see people still living in their families, in communities more connected. In higher, more developed countries, we are suffering from this connection. Why is that happening?
No, it's so there's still, as civilization grow, very often I look at it like we're going back to the roots. So people are more are seeking, they are seeking for. It's part of the agenda, self-development, spiritual journey. What's my purpose? How do I create impact? But this groundwork has to be done from the person.
Yeah.
It can't be dictated. It's like I have an executive coaching practice where one of the first rule is I need to meet the person first before taking the person on as a client. Because if it is the supervisory board or the corporation deciding that this person needs coaching and this person doesn't have the need or doesn't understand or is not passionate about his or her own self-development, I'm not taking the project, because you don't have the person's buy-in. You know, self-development starts from self.
True.
So
yeah, that's very important, and all the questions you are asking are tough questions. You know, what is your purpose? What drives you in life? What impact would you like to make to the world? But we are not being prepared to think about such questions in school, in the workplace, even in families. What would be your recommendation? Where to start? You know, there's so many people that have this hunger, they want to do something, but they don't know where to start. What would you recommend from your experience?
I would start by, you know, there are so many tools and resources available nowadays. It starts with oneself, first and foremost. It starts with communication, connecting. Again, I believe you cannot be connected at a deeper level if you're not aware of where you are, what drives you. It's like an unhappy person in a relationship expect the other person to make him or her happy.
Yeah.
We know that it doesn't work. You know, we live in cities where we are working at fast pace. I mean, we are very, very privileged in Poland. We have so beautiful nature. We have access. We just go out and we have nature. So, we are also privileged to have very high family values in this country. You know, there's a lot of ceremonies around the family table, the family dinners. We take it for granted. I took it for granted for quite some time myself, being far away from my own. But that's one of the things that I, you know, kind of insist that my adult kids make the effort to be at the table if we are having an event. We can stay very connected because we have all the technology. I mean, I remember we wrote letters.
I still remember writing letters.
And it's you know, just to share with you, for my 50th birthday, my siblings and my parents brought back all the letters I wrote when I was living in China. And it's amazing because it kind of shows my priority back then and how it evolved. And one of the things that I'm very grateful for my family is we have this motto almost, it's all for one and one for all. You know, I was the eldest child, so they were all kind of pitching in to make sure that I could be on my journey. And then once I was done, I was pitching in for the others. These brings a lot of warmth, but again, you have to be generous. It all starts again. I mean, in the beginning, I was sharing you smile on the tram, everybody smiles back at you. I mean, that's my personal experience, yes? And it's the same. Give and start by giving first, and you will receive.
Right.
It's everything that goes around do come back.
Yeah.
It might come back in a different form, from a different person, but it's be generous. Just, you know,
be a good person.
Just get out of this this little box and have high expectations.
Right.
Be generous and have no expectations, because then you will be surprised. Yes,
it's hard to have no expectations in a world that expects so much from you, and you put so much pressure on yourself too.
Because if you have expectation, you will be disappointed, and this is where bitterness comes. And then it doesn't serve the purpose any longer. It's not
easy. You're a mom. What is your expectation towards your daughters? You know, and how do you foresee the future of the next generation? What are the new professions and the new skills needed?
I think as a mother it's the same as all mothers in all century. All we want is our children to be happy. You know, some of us define it by having the means to live a lifestyle that you can afford. But at the end of the day, it's all about them being happy and fulfilled. yes, being in the right relationship, doing the right studies, but because I've been so privileged to do really what I love, I would love my kids to do what they love, because I believe that if this is top, the rest will follow. Because if you're in a job that you're miserable about, it somehow it pours out that you're not happy. I meet so many unhappy people. They're just in the wrong place.
Right.
And from time to time, it's just a shift, a little job change, and all of a sudden, they can flourish.
Yeah. So maybe the last question would be, what if you were to step out today, of the role you're doing, the job you're doing, what would you do? What would be the next big thing for you?
The next big thing, I come from Mauritius.
Yeah.
My father was doing 3 jobs to support my family. Yeah. He worked really hard, me growing up. I did not lack anything as, a poor, materially poor family, because I was rich at the love level.
Yeah.
I would want to support women in my country. So, young girls from, underprivileged families, because in Mauritius, education is what would help. That's your ticket out. Your ticket out of poverty anywhere in the world is education.
I truly believe it is the key, especially for women, to have the freedom to decide what they want to do in their life, but to have that choice. Without education, they do not have choice many times. Wow.
So I hope I'll be able to, kind of pitch in my son on that journey. And, I'm only 50, so I have long years ahead of me.
You have a long...
And I hope that, that would bring a lot of joy if I could contribute back. And, and still finish the circle.
Yeah, you're just in the middle of the road. No, maybe not even there. We're going to leave, some say 300 years. So
no, maybe not.
Maybe
is more like it.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing the secret of happy life. I was expecting, we're going to talk more about, the business skills, the new models, disruption in business, disruption in life, but it's more profound. It's about how myself, be happy so that I can create a better environment for my organization, my people.